Hi, my name is Barbie Enrico, and I'm here to welcome you to Pitch Tips Zoomcast, and where venture capitalist Fred Haney gives feedback to CEOs of startup companies to help them raise capital. Fred is an experienced venture capital fund manager, angel investor, entrepreneur, founder Monday Club, and author of The Fundable Startup, one of the best selling books about startup companies getting funded. So let's find out what Fred has to say to today's CEO.
Hi, and welcome to the Pitch Tips Zoomcast. I'm Fred Haney, your host, and I'm here because I've been involved with hundreds of startups. I've had a lot of very positive exits, and I've learned a lot about what it takes to make a startup successful. So the idea here today is that you, the audience, have a chance to be a fly on the wall in a conversation between a budding entrepreneur and a venture capitalist. That would be me. And you can watch me kind of ask questions and think through the process about whether I would invest in this or not. And our whole idea is to help our guest for today improve his pitch in hopes of, if he does decide to go out and raise capital, improving his chances of getting capital for his company. Our guest today is Arthur Varin. He's the CEO of a company called Unwind. Which is a very apt name because we're going to learn a lot about meditation and how that can be beneficial and how we can learn to do it. Arthur, why don't you give us a quick little introduction? Tell us a little bit about your personal background and
Sure.
how you got involved with this, and if you want to use your slide for the short elevator speech, you're welcome to do that.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to do this quick little Zoomcast. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I'm a young entrepreneur. I'm a 2-month-old entrepreneur. I would say I just graduated a few months ago. And so, yeah, I've been working on this meditation app for a while. I have a background in software engineering, and I just graduated from CSU Long Beach. I just got my MBA. And so that's basically it by myself. So yeah, if you want, I can do a little elevator pitch about what Unwind is. Let me just
that'd be great.
Share my screen. Here you go. So the issue we're tackling with Unwind is essentially one of the most fundamental need every human being has, right? Mental well-being. As you all know, there's a mental health crisis that has been raging on for the last couple of years, and the COVID-19 pandemic has made it even worse. And so now meditation, having proved it's to be one of the most powerful tools to achieve mental wellness, and add to that the convenience of our phones, and you understand why meditation apps have been blowing up for the last few years. So you might be wondering why and what makes Unwind different compared to the competition. So we're talking about Calm and Headspace. It's pretty simple. So the analogy I like to use is, think of Calm and Headspace, which are the big name right now, as the big and expensive corporate gyms, right? We have a lot of equipment, most of which you don't use, but you have no one to tell you how to actually use those equipments. Unwind would be that smaller personal gym with your own personal trainer that will tell you what to do and how to do it to get actual results. And taking you from point A, someone who knows barely nothing about meditation, to a daily autonomous meditationer. And all of this provided at an industry-breaking price of $299 a month, because our goal at Unwind is to make one of mental health's most powerful tool affordable to anyone.
Okay, interesting. I'm sure we'll talk, once you take the screen share off there, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about meditation as we go along. what we'll have you do a more detailed version of your
Mhm.
business plan. But I want to give a little background about how a venture capitalist thinks about whether or not to invest in a project. I learned very early on in my career as a venture capitalist that I just couldn't afford the time to get excited about every project. As a
Mhm.
venture capitalist, you see so many interesting companies, just incredible ideas, and they're just
Yeah.
coming at you like a fire hose. And I made the mistake a few times of falling in love with things and spending days researching and getting involved and getting excited.
Mhm.
And then it turned out I had to say no. And so what I learned kind of the hard way is that if you're going to say no to a project, you got to say no fast.
Okay.
That's the whole goal of a venture capitalist. If you're going to say no fast. So when venture capitalists listen to a presentation, they're making a list of the concerns they might have. They're saying, well, if this company's going to fail, why would it fail?
Mhm.
What are the issues? What are the things that could go wrong here? And then they'll work their way through that list and either try to get comfortable with an issue or find a way to work around it or figure out how to deal with it one way or another.
Mhm.
And if they can't find a way to live with that list of issues, then they say no. Uh,
Okay.
so it's sort of a negative process, but it really does focus on risk, which kind of gives you a clue. You know, you want to focus on the risks too, and make sure that you kind of explain them away as you go. Um, so we talked about this for a second. So maybe before you jump into your presentation, let's address kind of a hard question here. Um, aren't a lot of people going to think that it takes 30 years to learn meditation? I mean,
Yeah.
how does an app, I mean, give me kind of a short answer and then we'll jump into your more detailed presentation. But isn't that kind of a fundamental issue right up front here?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I think you give a great point, and that was the first big obstacle that I had in my way when I was thinking of creating a meditation product. And so my main objective was accessibility. And so there's several ways you can do that. The first one was with the price. I wanted the price to be even more affordable than a cup of coffee. So I came with this price tag of $2.99 a month. So that implied that I would have to focus on what truly mattered. And the second aspect to help with accessibility was with the beginning of the program, because I have a meditation trainer app that has a program. And the first step is a 3-minute guided session. So all I need to do is have one person listen to that 3-minute guided session. And that's all I need them to do to give a shot to this practice that has life-changing benefits. And yeah, and hopefully they like it and they listen to another one the next day, and then in a few months they'll be pretty good at meditation and experience all the benefits it can give you.
Haven't there been some studies that show that you can get most of the benefits in a fairly quick period of time
Yeah.
by following certain formula?
Yeah, I think it's in 2013, the Journal of American Health Association released a paper with a lot of studies proving scientifically for the first time in the Western world the benefits of meditation. And so they proved that only after a few weeks of practice, meditators noticed a significant improvement in the quality of sleep, their emotional balance, their social interaction, and pretty much every aspect of their lives. And so from that moment on, a lot of people in the tech industry saw that, and that's where 2 years later, you got Calm that made his big breakthrough, and in 2015 was elected App of the Year on the App Store. And since then, meditation has been on the rise through this convenient medium that is a meditation app.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, what's that got to do with the pitch deck? I think that's really important context to provide. I mean, if you're pitching to an angel investor or a venture capitalist, they may not know that.
Yeah.
and they may have a bias that says, meditation, you have to go spend half a lifetime in a Buddhist monastery.
Yeah.
Uh, and we know that's not really true. So you probably want to dispel that right away,
Mm-hmm.
as background. So let's have you go ahead and go through your business plan presentation, your sort of short pitch deck.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Perfect. So good morning or good evening, everyone. My name is Varin. I am the founder and CEO of Unwind Meditation Trainer. And today I'm going to be introducing you to the most exciting new product in the meditation space my team and I have been working on for the past 2 years. But before I do that, let's take a look at the situation the world is at the moment. As you all know, the life-threatening pandemic and the successive lockdown that came with it had a substantial impact on people's mental well-being, whether it's anxiety, stress, depression, severe cognitive fatigue, social anxiety, and many more. And so what if there was a tool, a practice that has been around for thousands of years and originated from parts of the world where those kind of mental health issues are not even a thing, the practice of meditation? And as I was saying earlier, in 2013, studies done by revered medical institutions have scientifically proven for the first time the effect of meditation on the human body. And after only a few weeks of practice, meditationers noticed significant improvement in their ability to focus, their emotional balance, the quality of sleep, a lot of aspects in their lives that involves the brain. And so starting with that, that's where the meditation market blew up, literally. It's now worth more than $2 billion with 10 million people that meditate in the US. So a lot more than you would think. And revenue growth by top 10 meditation apps have grown from 8 million in 2015 to a whopping 196 million in 2019. And is only expected to grow more after the pandemic. Some of those apps you might be familiar with. So Headspace, Calm, this type of apps. The issue is they kind of failed at delivering on their initial goal, right? They offer an overwhelming amount of features at a premium price, but very low guidance on how to actually use those features. And as a result, a very low amount of people actually stick around long enough to experience the real benefits of meditation. So when designing Unwind, we essentially had to reimagine from scratch what a meditation app should be. So instead of overwhelming you with all those features, we provide you with training, proper and personal training that takes you from point A, a meditation beginner, to point B, a daily autonomous meditationer. All of this is provided through a simple, user-oriented, one-button interface that keeps you engaged and motivated by gamifying your user experience throughout your learning journey. And last but not least, by focusing on what matters and by we are able to provide what meditationers truly need at an industry-breaking price of $2.99 a month, essentially making one of mental health's most powerful tool affordable to anyone. Now, in terms of strategy, which I'm sure you're very interested in, instead of only focusing on the very expensive B2C route, we'll be going to take advantage of the California State University recent intention to invest in the students' mental well-being. So we'll be providing universities with a tool they can provide to the students to drastically improve their mental health. So in terms of lead, Unwind is at the moment, I'm currently in talks locally with the California State University of Long Beach to understand their needs, and they really were with me along the process, so I could understand what students would need and how I could provide a platform to university to help the students. And we are also planning on going the level above the California State University network, which is composed of 23 universities, with a goal of landing a site license contract. So basically the university will be paying for the app and the students will be able to use it for free once they join the university. So in terms of timeline, the software development is complete. We're currently focusing on the content creation aspect of it. which should be done soon. And once we're done with that, we'll be launching a beta version before the end of next month. And depending on the market's reaction, we'll be releasing the commercial version before the end of fall of this year. So yeah, that's essentially it. I hope you enjoy discovering Unwind, a powerful new product that will empower communities to satisfy our most fundamental need of mental well-being.
Okay, you can take off the screen share. Good job. It's a nice presentation. I think it's a really good idea. But we'll go back and talk about a couple things. One thing that occurs to me that I think you need to try and quantify if you can. It's one thing to say COVID caused a lot of mental disturbance. And it's another thing to say that meditation could help ameliorate some of that. How do you quantify that? How do you measure that? I mean, the disturbance and damage done by COVID in some places just seems devastating. But how do you convince your investors that meditation can really have an impact? Or maybe you need to segment that market a little bit. I felt a lot better about that when you talked about California State University of Long Beach. That sort of taps into a personal experience I had when I was in graduate school. I went to the campus doctor with a lot of pain in my chest from hyperventilating. He said, go read books about how to relax. Well, it would have been pretty neat if he just said, here, put this app on your cell phone.
Yeah.
But that's a different magnitude of problem somehow than trying to say we're going to fix all the COVID problems.
Yeah, you bring a good point. The thing with meditation is it's been overly simplified, I would say, and segmented. You have to think as it's not something that is going to solve one of your problems. Exercising brings an area of improvement, but it's also a tool that is used with people with severe challenges. And so when you say that, would an investor ask me if it has really an effect, there's a graph that has been published multiple times actually that demonstrates the effects, the healing effects of different therapy methods. So you have medication, you have exercise, you have meditation in one of them. And meditation is one that is, I think it would be with exercise, the one that has the most positive effects according to patients and people dealing with those. But you bring a good point, and that's also something that I wanted to ask you about, is that do I need to keep this a long range of people? I'm like, whether you just want to feel more focused at work, or you have a severe mental health issue, this is a product that can help you, or do you think I should segment a particular part of this spectrum?
I think from an investor's point of view, it's important to show that you're solving the problem you set out to solve.
Yeah.
So you may need to define the problem down a little bit.
Okay.
To the problem that you really can solve. Let me ask you, you have some people using the app now, right?
I have a very few amount of people because I'm not done with the content creation.
So you're still
very early in the process.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. We'll come back to your question about how do you describe the problem, how do you define the problem we're solving. But what needs to happen to get the app out there? What if I said, well, a good first objective would be to just get the app online and see how fast people pick up on it, and see if you can get some market traction. Is that possible, or do you need funding just to do the development work?
The thing is that there's very few virality in terms of apps. It's hard to have a product go viral, especially now. So the B2C route is very expensive. You know, like you can have a good app, but to have a lot of people use it and the cost to subscribe, you know, like when you advertise a product is very expensive. And so, yeah, that route is not the first route I want to take because it's too much money and I don't have that money. So that's why I mentioned the California State University partnership is that I can more easily get a user base that way by just convincing the representative of student affairs at the CSU Long Beach to have that app accessible to a lot of people. And so my first goal is to have the app not really to generate revenue, but to generate a lot of user base. And once there is a lot of users, then the app can grow on its own and organically. That's really the objective.
Yeah, I think the idea of working through the universities is a good idea. I mean, that takes a finite amount of time.
Mhm.
But where are you with the app? I mean, how far away are you from putting something up that they can use?
So luckily, I've been able to use my software development skills to create the app. So I had no cost for that. The app development is complete. So all the coding, this type of stuff is done. I'm just waiting for the content creation aspects. So I have meditation instructors that will do the guided sessions for me. And we're still in the process of recording them and editing the content. And so the thing is that I don't really have 100% control on that because they're busy people, and it's been a challenging thing for me to keep them on track. But I'm positive it will be done by the end of this month. And so once that is done, the app is pretty much good to go. Then it's going to be the hardest part of putting it out there and transforming a product into a business.
So help me understand the role of the meditation instructors. Um, are when someone's using the app, are they actually communicating with the instructors, or are the instructors just helping you build the content into the software?
So that would be a great tool, but it's very hard to scale. It's almost unscalable to do that. And it's not convenient because people would have to be at the right time available for that sessions. And so what I wanted to do is create something very convenient. And so they're going to be recordings basically. But the way it's structured, it's not like they're going to go on the app and they're going to have all those guided sessions with different titles to choose from, because when you start meditation, you don't know enough to know how you should practice. And so that's why I have this one button interface where you just have to click on launch meditation and you're going to have a new meditation every day. And we take charge of the type of meditation you're going to do, how long you're going to meditate, and the progression. So people start with a 3-minute guided sessions. So that's where you have my meditation instructors that are going to explain to them what is meditation, how do you meditate, why should you meditate, and all the benefits that come with it. And then with time, people will, as the people get a level of practice, sessions will get longer. So we'll go from 3 minutes to 4 minutes, and then they will gain in autonomy. So at a certain point, the guided instructor is gonna leave you alone and force you to meditate on yourself, because that's the only way you get real benefits is when you can meditate autonomously. And so we really guide the user to this transition of guided to assisted and eventually fully autonomous. So the end goal is to have the user meditate on its own, basically. So yeah, the guided instructors are just doing a guided sessions at the beginning of the program and kind of like give you all the pieces you need so you can meditate on yourself.
You know, you might get some insight from one of the other pitch tips that we did. It was one of the first ones is Stacy Dow, and her company is Tamira, and her idea was to hook women up with people who could train them how to do specific makeup tasks. like
Okay.
their eyes, for example, and they're very short little interactions, but they're personal training kind of interactions. And she had the
Okay.
problem of trying to figure out how to attract the clinicians
Yeah.
as well as how to attract the customers. I think you're probably right to not try to go down that path necessarily, but it might be interesting to see some of the things she had to deal with in
Hmm.
working through that process.
Okay.
So to raise or not to raise, I think you're right that dealing with the universities could be an awfully good way to get launched here without having to invest a lot in marketing and customer acquisition. And it sounds like you're able to get there
Hmm.
without capital. Is that true?
I mean, I did need some capital to fund the content creation, but like only a few thousands that I was able to acquire through a competition I did with my school, and that competition also gave me that recognition that I can use to talk to people that have higher authority in the university. They're going to be like, oh, you're the one that won this competition, so I know who you are. And there's this type of legitimacy that it's enough for them to just have a discussion with me.
Well, we talked at the beginning a little about investors and how they think about risk.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest risks, and it's certainly present here, is the first question is probably, well, will it work? Not just will your software work, but will people learn how to meditate?
Yeah.
Will it really solve the problem? And related question is, will people pay for it? It's more expensive than a lot of apps. I mean, a lot of apps are free, a lot of apps are $1. So it's a little more expensive. So there's a question. I mean, I think the existing the numbers you had about the numbers of people and the dollar volume of the market would suggest that people are willing to pay a couple $100 a year or something like that, somewhere in that ballpark. Um, so the more you can demonstrate that and kind of prove what can be done here,
Mm-hmm.
so that investors don't have to worry about that, that they don't have to worry about will it work or not. They don't have to worry about will people buy it or not. And also, by the way, I mean, you're not an experienced CEO, I don't think. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I'm a 2 month old CEO.
So if you can find ways to get that market traction and get it out there, even if it's just with a couple of these university clients, um, that also lets you demonstrate that you know how to make things happen, that you can do what you say you're going to do. So you take a lot of risk away if you're able to find a path to the marketplace here without raising capital. Then, I mean, if you could go to investors and say, look, we've got uh, hundreds of people using it, a lot of repeat users, they're happy. We've interviewed
Mm-hmm.
people,
Yeah.
they're really encouraging and positive about it. We've only had one person drop out. I mean, we've done what we said we could do. Then the issue becomes uh, just raising capital to scale up
Yeah.
uh, to national and international level. And now all you're talking about is bringing in some marketing people,
Yeah.
sort of step on the accelerator and say, okay, we've got a formula here. Let's just go expand it.
So a question I have for you would be, how do you do that first step? How do you prove that your product works? What are some concrete and real ways to prove that?
Well, the ultimate proof is people pay for it.
Yeah.
And they keep paying for it. They don't just sign up for a month and then drop out.
Yeah.
They sign up for a month, and 2 months later, 3 months later, 4 months later, they're still paying their $3.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the ultimate test.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you're not wrong. I see.
So I know you've been struggling a little with whether to raise capital now or later. Are there
Correct.
some issues in that direction that you'd like to discuss?
The thing is that this is my first project. This is my first entrepreneurship journey. And so for me, it's the probability that it will work is very low. I've accepted that. But what I want to do is learn the most I can. Like this is like a above all a learning experience for me. So for me, like, yeah, you're right. I've been wondering if I should get funding and when should I get funding. The what I've come up with is that first I would need to do as much as I can without money. And there's still a lot of things I could do without money. The first thing is that, as I was talking to you about, having a contract with the university, for example, maybe have a test run there, or land a site license contract with a university that I can do without money. And when I reach the point where I would need money to do that, then I would have to start thinking about how to raise capital.
But you'd be in a much stronger position if you had the university deal, for example, and a few months of experience. So you could say, look, it works. My book, The Fundable Startup, one of the basic premises is that the more market traction you can get, the better your chances of raising capital. And again, it comes back to this risk issue. You're reducing risk. You're taking risk out of the equation.
And does that mean I also get a better deal?
Sure. But I wouldn't worry too much about better deal. I'd worry about getting any deal at all. But yeah, well, think of every time you reduce the risk of your proposition, you increase the value.
Okay.
The investors are willing to pay a little more if there's less risk. I mean, startups don't get very good valuations. They're usually valued in between $2 and $4 million or something like that. Mm-hmm. So if you want $1 million, you're probably going to give up a third or a quarter of the company, something like that. I mean, you can't change that very much, but you can certainly increase your chances of getting that funding. I mean, a startup, it's not really worth anything. I mean, it's probably worth zero until an investor is willing to put some money in. And the way you get an investor willing to put some money in is by controlling that risk, managing the risk. I mean, with an app, you have the benefit that you don't have a manufacturing process. You don't have to set up a manufacturing facility. You've basically got your product, or will fairly soon. If you haven't read The Fundable Startup, by the way, you should. It addresses a lot of these questions. And just for our listening audience to know, the Audible version, the audiobook, The Fundable Startup, is now available on Amazon. And I narrated it myself. I felt like I wanted to do that. But I think it can help you address a lot of these issues. And I'd encourage anyone who hasn't read it to read it. And the audiobook is a good way to get that experience. So I hope I'm helping you address your question about raising money or not raising money. I think you're pretty well positioned to continue to get some traction and build some value, reduce the risk before you really go approach investors. And I think you'd be in a lot, if you had that, the California State University, the Long Beach deal, if you had that under your belt for a couple months, and that was working successfully, I think that goes a long way toward proving out what you want to do. I want to come back to something else you said. Just because you're a first-time entrepreneur doesn't mean your chance of success are low.
Oh, okay.
It's more about having a good idea, and you've got the entrepreneurial energy and the determination to make it work. The other ingredient uh, is management.
Mhm.
I don't think. Do you have any management experience in your background?
Well, I've always been this guy that was like the group leaders and like study groups at school, and like when I was doing software development, we always had annual projects, and I would be manage that. So I'll also manage a junior enterprise at one point. So I did on a small scale. I'm starting to have some practice now. I think I have around 8 content creators that work for me, and so yeah, I've had to I did learn a lot. I did learn a lot in terms of like dealing with people's emotions. And most of all, like not everybody has the same. You was about to say something?
Well, I would make that a part of your presentation.
Oh yeah.
When you talk about your team of people, the people who are involved, I would talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
I've been a leader in a lot of different situations. I'm not an experienced CEO. I'm not a track record Silicon Valley CEO, but I've been a leader in a lot of situations. And the other thing is to think a little about at some point, you may want to bring somebody in. If
Yeah.
you start really scaling up, you may want to bring somebody into the company who has been a successful CEO in the past. That might make investors feel better. But I think you could probably pitch yourself well to angel investors if you talk a little about your uh, leadership experience, not
Okay.
CEO experience, but leadership skills in different situations. And you clearly communicate well and have a lot of the ingredients to make something happen. The fact that you're dealing with an app here that can be kind of scaled gradually
Hmm.
is a very positive thing. I mean, at some point, there may be an argument, well, look, this is a big market. If you really want to be successful, you have to really step on the gas and scale it up very big, very fast.
Yeah.
But that could come a little later. I mean, prove that it works first, and then worry about scaling up.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, something I've been asking myself a lot is how big should I want to be? Like, how big is big enough? Because a lot of entrepreneurs today they want to be the next Facebook, the next Google, and sometimes you have tragic stories of a business that is going very well, and then they want to scale up too fast, and everything falls to the ground. So yeah, how do I know how big I want to be and how big should I be?
Well, there's one probably sort of factual answer to that. And that is if you want to build a successful business, you probably have to have 20 or 30% or more market share within the segment you're addressing. Now, that
Okay.
doesn't mean you have to have 30% of the $2 billion, but you need to probably very narrowly define a segment of the market that you want to tackle. Maybe it's the universities,
Mhm.
and figure out a way to be a significant player. And the reason I'm saying it that way is most successful and profitable businesses have in excess of about a 25% market share. Uh,
Okay.
but market may be defined in a very narrow way. It's served market
Mhm.
narrowly defined. So, it doesn't have to be the whole intergalactic meditation market. It can be a narrowly defined piece of it. So that's one
Okay.
answer. I mean, it's hard to build a successful business if you're a 5% market share. So that means there's 20 other guys out there, and you're just competing all the time, and you don't have a really strong position.
Okay.
So that would be sort of the quantitative answer to your question.
Yeah, well, that's a good element. Thank you.
It's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
Let's see. I think we've probably covered the ground pretty well, unless you had another question you wanted to talk about.
No, I think I'm good. You addressed the main concerns I have. Were you an entrepreneur yourself when you were on your early 20s?
No, my career path was weird. Never would have predicted that I'd be doing what I'm doing. Um, I just quickly, I migrated. I thought I was going to do software development work. I got my
Yeah.
PhD in computer sciences at Carnegie Mellon University and went to a company here on the West Coast, Scientific Data Systems, to develop software systems. I managed a project to develop a very big time-sharing operating system. Uh, but then Xerox bought the company I was working with, and I evolved into strategic planning for Xerox, and then strategic planning at Computer Sciences and TRW. And I ran a division of TRW for a while and ended up selling it and selling another division of TRW. And then I got recruited to run a venture capital company because of my operating
Yeah.
experience and having worked with startups inside Xerox and TRW. And then after that, I did a lot of angel investing and started half a dozen companies as a co-founder with other people. So I do think of myself as an entrepreneur co-founder now,
Yeah.
but I never in the world would have predicted that career path.
It was the same for me. It was the same for me. And I feel like it's not the easiest path, but once you have passion towards it, you can't do anything else but that. So, and last question I would have for you, I'm a very curious person, sorry, but what would be the most important trait that you think an entrepreneur should have, a young entrepreneur?
It's really an interesting question. I did a little word study a couple years ago. I pulled down hundreds of thousands of words in articles about in three categories: successful entrepreneurs, successful CEOs, and successful companies.
Okay.
And the word that showed up the most in the articles about successful entrepreneurs was passion.
Okay.
The word, and also determination. The word that showed up the most in successful CEOs, stories about successful CEOs, was management. And the word that showed up the most under successful startup companies was marketing.
Okay, that's
I,
interesting.
I think that's an insightful thing. I
Yeah.
mean, think about that a little bit, because we they should wrap together and they should all be part and parcel of the same thing in a startup. But when we talk about entrepreneurship, we do seem to kind of focus on the passion and entrepreneurial part. And when we talk about management, and the venture capitalists like to see managers who have a lot of experience, that's a management process. You know, being a CEO is a management process. It's organization and structure, and shouldn't be separate necessarily from entrepreneurship. And then the third category, successful startups, marketing is such a key, you know, understanding the market that you're attacking and having a strategy for really going after it and competing effectively. So I hope that answers your question. It's an interesting question.
Thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay, Arthur, thank you. Appreciate your participation here. Audience, thank you. If you haven't subscribed already, be sure and hit the subscribe button on your screen. And stay tuned to our YouTube channel, the Fundable Startup YouTube channel. There's a lot of new content coming all the time. We're doing one of these pitch tips just about every week, and we're also posting our Monday Club presentations. So thank you for checking in, and come see us next time. Thanks very much. Arthur, thank you a lot for participating. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.